We have a lot to discuss today regarding Devonta Smith's injury. Limited in practice now, starting Thursday, which was great, but doesn't mean that he'll play. And what are the consequences to Devonta Smith not playing in this game on Sunday, which is very important, probably our toughest opponent. We're going to be talking about Darius Slay. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions. We're going to think ahead a little bit, which I normally don't do, but I think this really has to be said. So let's get straight into it all.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
If I'm the betting man, then I am, and you're rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is the redemption year for Jalen Hurts. This is the year we get the bad taste out of our mouths from last season. If I'm going all in, ride or die with a Super Bowl and bringing that Lombardi trophy back to Philadelphia for a second time, you need to go to BetUS, and I'm not wasting any time with it. I'm putting $500 down as the risk and getting $7,000 back at the end of the year because this offense is going to be explosive. This defense by Vic Fangio is going to be dynamic. A 150% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Click the link in the description below. Start betting and start winning. All right, guys, so we have a lot to discuss here. So the first thing we want to go over is Devonta Smith, because obviously this is a big matchup this week. Baltimore Ravens playing in Baltimore. Devonta Smith was limited on Thursday the other day, which was great. I mean, that's awesome. You know what I mean? But I kind of go back to when, AJ Brown was hurt and, he was practicing and he still didn't play in a game. They gave him another week. So I wonder if the Eagles are going to give him another week. They're going to slowly get him back. Devonta Smith has been dealing with a hamstring injury the last few weeks, been dealing literally all season. Most of the season he has been dealing with it. I have to appreciate the fact they have been very careful with the situation with him because you need Devonta Smith this season. I think we all know this. Okay. Here's my issue. Okay. And I don't care what the Ravens defense is ranked against the run. I could care less. The Eagles, of course, are going to challenge the Ravens. You're going to run with Saquon Barkley. And thank God if you can run against that team and you can keep Jalen Hurts' his passing reps from like 16 to 23 reps, 23 throws, I'm fine with it. This might be a game where if the run game doesn't work, that you might have to throw 30 times in this game. And, Hurts normally doesn't really do that much. And when he does, usually trouble starts. Okay. When he throws way too much in the game and maybe he'll do well. I'm not saying it's an automatic loss, but if he throws that much, then something's not working, obviously. The problem I have, and every time we have a starting receiver that's pretty much out for the game for the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to worry about what's behind on the wide receiver depth. And I think a part of it is that every time we try to look for somebody else to get drawn up a play, Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, I mean, there is nobody that they throw to. It's not enough for me, okay? Jahan Dotson, you trade a third to the seventh. I know it's a broken record, guys. You're going to tell me in the comment section it's a broken record. I absolutely get it. I get it. Let's just say the rushing attack is not working with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Ravens, and you have to do something. Okay, Jahan Dotson's going to get two targets. Johnny Wilson usually gets one in the end zone, and that's pretty much it. No one else really gets involved. Britton Covey is back for his second week, which is good. So hopefully, what other receiver was getting a lot of receptions, or at least when it comes to depth, who was really getting – the Eagles were really putting him into these games. It was Britton Covey. He had like 7 receptions before he got injured, but I liked how they did use him in the offense as a third down gadget type receiver, whether it's like a screen or whether it's just anything like an open space that Covey will explode with his speed, outrun defenses, get those quick first downs for us. That's an awesome thing. Will they do this? Will they use him in this game? I'm not sure, but you're hoping that it's his second game back, so he's getting more comfortable being back, and hopefully they involve him in this offense because I actually really like Britton Covey a lot, and I think Hurts I think there is chemistry there. The problem is there's just not enough chemistry with everybody else at this point. Like Jahan Dotson, like I said, hasn't really done much, and I can't really blame him. But I mean, is Jahan Dotson bad? Do they not want him to go? Do they just want to? Did they give up these picks for him to be a blocker this year? I mean, I don't know what's going on. Okay. So that worries me a little bit all the time when you have one of these, when you have one of these wide receiver, wide receiver 3 is the redheaded stepchild. They just don't care about the position. I have no idea why they don't draw up anything for this position, especially in the past where we've had starting receivers out. And that's a big question where I don't want to rely on Saquon Barkley running over 30 times. I mean, if you have to do it, then you have to do it. Like sometimes the Eagles just have no choice. If something's working, they have to roll with it. And, Saquon gets in that danger zone of getting too many carries the last few weeks. But in this case, if the run game is not working and you can only, you're trying to get somebody else involved, you got to get somebody else involved. And you got to run your crossers, your hot routes. You have to do something. Don't hold on to the ball. Don't look. I have to respect them last week. I thought they spread the ball really good last week. I thought they spread the ball out a little bit to different people last week, which was great. And another thing, they didn't just bomb the ball to A.J. Brown on a play. They actually used short passing game, yak yardage, like from the receivers. Let the offense work for Hurts. I mean, whatever the defense gives you, take advantage of it. If the check down is there, throw the check down. Don't be afraid to do it. Okay. Well, yeah, we all know the Ravens are one of I think they're ranked 30, 31. They're pretty much one of the worst teams against the pass right now. One of the worst teams against the pass. So I think you're hoping to God Devonta Smith is playing Sunday. And if not, then they have to depend on the run game. They have to get A.J. Brown involved, which I think with his matchup, but you're not going to see much man-on-man coverage if Devonta Smith is not playing. That's really the big issue. You'll have more of a better chance when Devonta Smith is playing, but if he's not playing, then obviously they're not going to think Jahan. They're not going to be afraid of Jahan Dotson. They're not going to be afraid of Johnny Wilson. They're not going to be afraid of Britton Covey, even though Covey will come in once in a while, whatever. So this is really important for this week. So, and we'll see what happens with this situation here. Now, next, Darius Slay. Okay, I don't know what type of concussion. I don't know if it's a grade 2, a grade 3. There's no way it's just a regular grade 1 concussion because this man couldn't even walk straight after a while. So I don't think he's playing. He's still not practicing at this point. Probably will not. And to be honest with you, I have no issue with Isaiah Rodgers at all. And guys, people got to stop nitpicking at specific things as in you're not going to shut down receivers every single week. You're going to win some. You're going to lose some. The Ravens have good receivers. I think Zay Flowers is probably one of the most dangerous ones because he can catch a ball in front of 2 guys and outrun the entire defense if you start missing tackles. So he's very, on top of Derrick Henry, on top of trying to contain Lamar Jackson, on top of these cornerbacks. And look, I like Isaiah Rodgers. He's a legit starting corner in the league. And I think really the only thing that pissed me off about him this season was like the 4th and 16. I forgot what that 4th and 16 play was. I forgot what game it was. That was, he gave a little bit too much cushion on a play, whatever, So I think he's played really good. It's not going to be perfect with everybody. It happens, and then you got to see about your pass rush too. You have no Brandon Graham the rest of the season. Bryce Huff's out for the next few weeks. They signed Charles Harris. They signed that guy from the Commanders. I mean, they signed a couple defensive ends, which is great. I'm hoping Fangio was lying in this press conference. I don't know much. I don't know. He hasn't really shown me anything yet. I got to see what he's going to show me this week. So I think he knows what he's getting with Charles Harris as a veteran coming in here. So that's really going to pertain to how this corners do play. Because if they give up outside contain, Lamar Jackson is going to make this game look very easy, okay? And the Eagles have to really contain on the outside. They got to be smart, and they got a lot of weapons to deal with. They have a good front. They have a good line, and that's part of it as well. But I'm very comfortable with Isaiah Rodgers coming in and playing another week. And, this is a guy that's working for a contract next year. So, if he gives up a big play, it happens. The Eagles, normally aren't really giving up the big play. I think they've done a pretty good job of that post-bye. They haven't really given up these big plays. I think they've kept everything in front of them, which is good. So we'll see what happens with this situation. A lot of people were talking about Ringo over Rodgers. I think Ringo is worse than Rodgers. I think Rodgers is just way ahead of him. He was way ahead of him in training camp, and he's way ahead of him this season as a cornerback in general. Not saying that Ringo's a bad player, but I just think, you have a guy that's been in the league 3 years, has been a 3-year starter, not only as a corner, but on special teams as well. So he's done a lot of double duty for the Indianapolis Colts in his past. So we'll see what happens. I feel pretty good about it. Not really worried about it that much. Okay. Now, I think the last thing we got to talk about is the Detroit Lions. Okay. The Detroit Lions, the Bears played on Thanksgiving. Hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving, by the way. Guys, I'm really sick and tired, and I don't like looking ahead. Before I even talk about this, I don't like looking ahead. I never talk about the first seed. Really, in videos, I don't talk about the first seed. I really don't care. Like, the Eagles got to take care of the division first. They're up 3 games. They have, obviously they have Pittsburgh. Sorry, they have Baltimore on Sunday. They have the Panthers. They have Pittsburgh, and then they have some divisional games. Okay, this is the hardest game of the week. This is the hardest game of the season on Sunday. So they got to take care of their own business. But when it comes down to like the first seed, yeah, I mean the Lions are a solid football team. I just don't respect the fact, and look, I think we're used to this by now. Like, anything the Eagles do on field, whether it's one bad read by Jalen Hurts, one game where they should have scored more points. I mean, the media is just killer. I mean, with these other teams, they sweep everything under the rug. Casey has been mediocre this season, swept under the rug, never talked about. Jared Goff can throw 4 or 5 picks in a game, swept under the rug. And they can go toe-to-toe with the Bears and play so close to the chest of this game, and they get no shit for it. The only time they got shit for it after this game, when Jamison Williams flipped the ball at somebody out of bounds and he got a penalty for it. That was the only thing they really talked about. Okay, but the Bears were 4-8 going into this game, or whatever they were. Okay, not a good football team. I think we know this. Okay, first half the Bears didn't play well. Second half the passing game was working out. The run game not too bad, but the Lions don't look like world beaters to me. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be the generic fan that's just like, well, this is how they played from the first, all the games from, I don't care what happened earlier in the season. We're talking about the last couple games. Okay, sometimes teams look different beginning of the season. We look way different from what we looked like beginning of the season until after the bye. Way different. 7 straight games. Okay, and obviously we're still working on stuff. And then you look at these other teams, and you're like, man, this is what we have to. This is what we're apparently afraid of. The playoffs are gonna run through Detroit, and yeah, they hold the first seed right now. So realistically, they have to get beat. We have to take care of business, and because of the conference wins, they have to beat a team they have to lose a game within their division. So you're obviously looking towards the back-to-back games against the Bills and the Packers. Would be nice if they could lose both of those games. Probably won't happen, but they scored 24 points against the Colts. They didn't score much. 23 points? I forgot what the score was. 23 points against the Bears. The Bears Caleb Williams. Oh, man. I haven't watched too much Caleb Williams this year, but that guy, man, oh, my God. The Bears were so overhyped this season, like so many other teams. The Eagles are the only team in the NFC that can walk into Detroit if they don't have the first round bye and beat the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Are they a solid football team? Yes. Are they good? Yes. I'm not taking anything away from them. But watching this game, the Bears for a third straight time, literally choking. Okay. You have the ball. They call a timeout, so they waste a timeout. They're down to 2 timeouts. Okay. Sorry, they're down to 1 timeout. So I don't know what happened. There was a timeout that was called when they started at the 1-yard line. They called the timeout for some weird reason. Maybe they didn't want to get a delay of game. They were just the coaching. Their coaching is just so bad in Chicago right now. There's just time management was a big issue here. Could have beat them. They get to the 35-yard line. And at that moment where you really need your offensive line needs to hold up, you got to make a big play here to at least you're in field goal position right now. All you got to do is just try to get some yards, and you're running the clock. You have a timeout left, and Caleb Williams gets sacked. immediately. He gets sacked on the third. He gets sacked like a 10-yard loss. I don't know what it was. He was backed up. The right tackle literally just missed a block on a really big down. Completely missed a block. So he gets sacked. And there's like 34 seconds left in the game with a timeout. They still have a timeout on their side. And he's getting up and he's taking his sweet ass time. The head coach isn't even calling a timeout at this point. While the clock is running, Caleb Williams is setting up his offense. He's like walking to the line like there's another 2 minutes left in the game. And by the time he gets the ball back in his hands, throws it not even to the end zone, the timer ran out. And the Lions scathed. They had a timeout. They had a timeout left, never used it. And I don't know why it happened. So then all of a sudden, the Lions scathed by a game like this on Thanksgiving, one of the worst teams in football. And this team, I'm telling you, like, some teams look really good beginning of the season, and then they start to score a lot less points. And trust me, guys, like, you don't win the playoffs by scoring 20 points a game. The Lions have scored over 30, 40 points. They've done it. They're known for running up the score on a lot of teams. A lot of teams hate the way the Lions play by the end where they already won the game and they're just still running up the score. A lot of teams don't like that kind of. They don't think it's respectful for the game. So I get it. But I'm not impressed at all. That's the team that we have to be afraid of? No. And you know what, guys? I don't even give a shit if we don't get the first seed at all. The Eagles have been pretty damn good on the road. I think they've been flawless on the road. They've been really good. So them going into another, sure, you love the home crowd. Yeah, you want it in Philadelphia. You want the playoffs to run. Yeah, you get a week. And obviously, you're really playing for that extra week of rest that's really needed. It's not really just having the home games in Philadelphia for the first seed. You're really trying to get that first seed for that extra week of rest. It's a lot of rest that you can rest some of these guys, and then they can come to practice the next week. That's huge for a first seed. Don't have to travel, don't have to do nothing. They just sit in Philadelphia and try to win through until they can get to the Super Bowl, and then they travel there to, I think, New Orleans this season. So for me, like, I don't care if they win it or not. And like I said, I don't look ahead too much. I normally don't make videos on looking ahead, and I'm not going to be that generic fan that's going to be like, well, the Lions did. I've seen teams like this over and over again. The Lions remind me of the 2018 Rams, where they were, and Jared Goff was a part of that team, which I think is just so funny. Obviously that was the year the Eagles couldn't beat the Saints, that dropped by Alshon Jeffrey. Nick Foles came in late in the season, half the season yet again, and magic would have happened. The Rams weren't great. The Rams didn't look good in the playoffs, and that was one of the most boring Super Bowls between the Rams and the Patriots that I completely ever watched. Okay, they were dunking on teams all year, 30-plus, 40-plus points. They get to the playoffs and totally – I'm not saying that the Lions are gonna be like this, but it reminds me of it so much, where it's too good to be true, but it could be worse because now they're really not scoring as many points, and they haven't faced the Philadelphia Eagles yet. I'm sorry, but they haven't. We've shut down a lot of teams this year that had a lot of hype going into them. The New Orleans Saints had one of the best passing offenses. We beat them. They never were the same after that. Washington Commanders. You know how that is. New team, new owner, new GM, new head coach, 17 free agents, over $95 million in cap space. Look at this team. Look what they're doing. You know, I mean, they're getting congratulated for a fucking Hail Mary play. Like, if the Eagles kicked 4 field goals in one game and scored a Hail Mary and got a Hail Mary, you think Jalen Hurts would have been respected? Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here with that. And they haven't been the same. So it's just, you know what I mean? Once teams run to us, we run the fucking table. We run the table. So, we're 2.5 point underdogs for Sunday against, the Eagles have to take care of their own business. I'm not hyping the Eagles up as, I think they're good. I think sometimes they're held back a little bit more. I'm not saying they're fully held back, but I feel like sometimes the Eagles are held back a little bit. They could be doing a little bit better. We're always nitpicking at things. But that game, the Lions the last couple weeks have not impressed me at all. Okay. I've seen this story a million times. And trust me, even last season when the Eagles won these close, ugly games, getting to 10-1, getting completely exposed by the 49ers, and then literally falling apart game by game by game with the playoffs. Okay. A playoff berth. Already in the playoffs. Had a playoff game for a few weeks later, and they still couldn't get their shit together. This is a different team this year. We all know this. I'm not going to discuss why. I think we know how different it is from last year to this year. What's different, okay? So for the Eagle fans that know, we know. But I think this is the only team that can beat the Detroit Lions. I don't think no other team in the NFC is going to beat them. No other team. Just saying. So, Green Bay might have a shot, obviously, but we'll find out, depending on how everything works out. But I know I just rambled about a bunch of things, but I normally don't look ahead, but I thought this was really important because I watched this game and I was just like, sorry, but I know it's a week-to-week league. Everything changes. It's not about records. It's not about how they played from beginning to end of the season. It's really in the moment of the last couple games, how have they played? And I don't take anything from the Lions. I think they're a really good football team. But I think the Eagles are way better and way more superior. When they're on their shit and they play on all four cylinders, I think they're the best in the world, honestly. So that's where I'm at. And I don't care. First seed, I only want first seed for rest. Other than that, I don't care if the playoffs go through Philadelphia. I don't care. I think the Eagles will be fine going on the road. They're one of the best teams when it comes to blocking out the noise. But everything is swept under the rug. Everything is. Every little thing is swept under the rug for all these teams. The Eagles can have one bad quarter, one bad series. They could win the game, and they will not get credit for anything they did in that game to win. You beat Washington, and then it's, Jane Daniels, his ribs, his hand got busted. Like, it's just bullshit. It's excuses. If Jalen Hurts threw 4 or 5 picks in a game, like, come on now. We've seen him throw 2 picks in a game, and the shit that he gets for that, especially for me, I hate that. So that's all I really got to say about the situation, and we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below on, obviously, Devonta Smith, Darius Slay, and now the Detroit Lions and my little rant on them. So you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes what up. Follow us live. Peace out, guys. Peace.